I've been thinking a lot about insults all week. In fact, I Google insults, and you would be surprised about what's all out there on insults. You can buy books on insults. And actually, I even made a sheet of insults, which I was going to share with you tonight, some of them, but they were so inane and insipid, I didn't want to do that. But the world is humored with insults. It's sad to think, though, that people intentionally insult other people. It's downright mean, isn't it? It's harmful, and it's rude. Well, in our gospel reading today, you may have picked up on it, right? Jesus seems to be downright rude to this poor Canaanite woman. He even insults her, calls her a dog. And wow, what would you do if someone said that to you? Well, what do we do with this? Well, we find that Jesus is really challenging this woman. But he's not only challenging her, he's challenging his disciples, and he's challenging the religious elite. To understand this, we simply have to have an idea of the context of this narrative. Before, we see Jesus feeding the 5,000. And then we have Jesus walking on water. And then we find Jesus healing the sick. And right after that, we have the religious elite coming up to Jesus and saying, your disciples don't wash their hands right. Do you feel the irony there? So, then we have our narrative of the Canaanite woman. And then after this, we see Jesus heals many people. And then he feeds 4,000 more people. And then the religious elite come up to him and ask Jesus for a sign. Do you get the irony? This little narrative is a gem inside of this broader narrative. You see, the assumption of the religious elite is that they're just better than everyone else. And in the midst of this conflict, Jesus takes a journey. It was his only real journey outside of the land, to Tyre and Sidon, these old strongholds of the pagan Canaanite culture. Why does he want to do this? Well, he wanted to challenge the religious elite. Now, let's go into our narrative here. Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Behold, a Canaanite woman. This woman had everything going against her from the beginning. First of all, she was of the old Canaanite stock. And the Jews despised them. They were the lowest of the low. Not only that, she was a woman. And in this culture, women weren't considered to be all that important as men. She doesn't even have a name. And on top of it all, she's got demon problems in her family. So she's not really high up the social ladder. Do you understand? Are you catching this? But look what she does. She calls out to Jesus, have mercy on me, O Lord. She's got this passion that drives her to Jesus. Not only that, her theology is pretty good. It's better than the Pharisees and the religious elite because she addresses Jesus with his messianic title. O Lord, Son of David, my daughter is severely possessed by a demon. Now you'd think that, Jesus would say, hey, okay, let's talk about this. He didn't answer a word. Gave her the cold shoulder. But she persisted. And the disciples came and begged him, saying, send her away. She's driving us crazy, Jesus. Just send her away. For she's crying after us. He doesn't really answer this directly. He just said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that wasn't no comfort to her, do you think? What did she do? Did she turn around and leave? No, she didn't do that. She came and knelt before him saying, Lord, help me. And he answered, it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Whoa! At this point, most people would leave, wouldn't you think? But she comes back with a very witty comeback to Jesus. She said, yes, Lord, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Now Jesus is impressed. He looks at her and said, woman, how great is your faith? Now we have to again understand this statement in the context of the whole. Do you remember last week? Jesus was walking on the water and Peter, the rock of the church, says, can I come out? And he said, yeah, come. So he comes out and he starts looking at all those stormy waves and winds and he starts to think, right? And Jesus pulls him out, puts him in a boat and he says, oh, you of little faith. Here's Peter, the top apostle. And this Canaanite woman comes out on top because the apostle had little faith. She has great faith. And of course, that puts her above the religious elite who had no faith at all, right? Well, Jesus knew all along what was in this woman. He skillfully brings it out by challenging her with rudeness and insult. And the lesson for the disciples is this. The kingdom of heaven is reached through faith. And the lessons for the Pharisees and the religious elite is that God's plan is bigger than they are. It's bigger than their little world, which they caved in on themselves. And this takes us to the readings today, right? We have in the Psalms, may God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face to shine upon us, that your way may be known upon the earth, your saving power among all nations. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy. And then we have in Isaiah, and the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to him, to love the name of the Lord, and to be his servant. Everyone who keeps the Sabbath does not profane it, and holds fast my covenant. These I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. For my house shall be called a house of prayer. So what does this woman mean to Matthew? She is the absolute personification of the nations coming to Jesus. Matter of fact, she is got the honor of being the first of the pagans, of the nations to come and enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now, I don't know. I know. You've been insulted before. How many people have been insulted before? Yeah. Let me tell you a great insult someone gave me one time. I was in my doctoral studies, maybe just a week or so, and my doctoral advisor looked at me and he said, he was very formal. He said, Mr. Wargel, you do not know how to think. I go, whoa. After I covered a little bit, and I was thinking to myself, man, Well, I know. I guess I knew he was telling me the truth, you know. Anyways, instead of getting ruffled about that, do you know what he did? 3 whole years, tutorials just between him and I, just helping me to learn how to think. And he helped me for 6 whole years. And at the end, I wrote him a letter. I said, you are like my Professor Higgins, and I'm your Liza Doolittle. I mean, some of you old people probably remember that. God is always challenging us, isn't he? He's challenging our pride. We can stiffen up and be resentful, or we can push through with passion like this Canaanite woman. The kingdom of heaven doesn't belong to the religious elite. This woman becomes an icon of humility for us to meditate on today.